she says, I have 9 boxes for you. And she hadn't opened them up. Well, we were surprised when we opened it up, and there was so many Christmas gifts.
Generosity and kindness go a long way in life.
Because you're making that heart for us.
These kinds of traits are taught, but not always kept. 1,656 miles away from Weslaco sits Mandan, North Dakota, a small town of about 18,000 people. In the community stands Lewis and Clark Elementary School. Inside the campus is Mrs. Susan Mills' 4th grade class.
We were studying North Dakota climate, and
last fall, the students were getting taught about the weather climate around the United States.
Looking at that, we saw that there was lots of rain.
Then came October 24th, 2015. Already dealing with above average rainfall, Weslaco was battered with well over 10 inches of rain in a matter of hours, leading to devastating flooding to streets, homes, and even schools. The stories were scary and very real for some Weslaco ISD students.
The electronics and all the electricity just powered off because the rain, and it was kind of flooding in my house. I got kind of scared. My mom too.
My mom still didn't want to do anything but try and get out the water, but that was when we were in my grandma's house. So when we moved to another house, it started to rain hard. So I tried to go. So when I stayed there, I moved, and then all this stuff started to happen, and it rained super hard.
Roosevelt Elementary was one of the hardest Weslaco ISD schools hit by the event. Building B, the old section of the campus that houses 2nd through 5th graders, received about a foot of water in the classrooms, according to school principal Linda Wallace.
So a lot of the children's library books got wet and they had to be discarded. A lot of the furniture, the shelving had to be discarded. It was a particle board. We had cleaning done, and the children had to be moved for about a week and a half into our newer section.
Mrs. Mills' class heard about the catastrophe. They decided to take action.
We'd seen that there was a lot of heavy rains in the southern part of the United States. As we were talking, we figured that you guys and people that had been flooded would lose things that were important. And one of the things that we discussed that was important was books. So I went to the Red Cross here in our sister town, Bismarck, North Dakota, our capital, and got in contact with a guy there that said he had just had some Red Cross volunteers come home from Texas, and he could put me in contact with somebody there.
It didn't take long for Mrs. Mills to get her break with someone from Weslaco ISD.
Norma Brewer, our Student Support Services Director for the district, received an email from Mrs. Susan Mills, the teacher at from North Dakota, and she went ahead and passed it on to me because she felt like it had to do with books and reading. So she called me one day and she said, will you please get in touch with Mrs. Mills? And I said, sure. And that's when all the fun started.
Make sure that you thank the people, the students in Mandan, North Dakota, okay?
Emails were exchanged, which lasted for several weeks. And through the communication, Mrs. Mills shared the plan with Mrs. Calvillo, and immediately work began on the project.
We looked at our own libraries, our gently used books that we're not reading anymore that we figured we could share. So we collected all of those books and sent them down in hopes that that would help out in Texas.
An astounding 437 library books were collected and delivered to Weslaco in 9 big boxes just before winter break.
Suhey Garcia.
In addition to the books, Christmas presents for boys and girls were delivered from Mrs. Mills' class, electing to do that instead of having a gift exchange in their classroom.
There were times when my staff and I had teary eyes together because we couldn't believe, the kind gestures, the generosity of these students and their teacher.
Through the whole process, Wallace and the student body were kept in the dark. But once school was back in session after winter break, Wallace received a surprise phone call. Once she was filled in, the longtime educator of 25 years was lost for words with what a group of kids did to uplift her school.
I was just amazed, 1,650 miles away, all the way north, this class decided to do this.
We had no idea what was in there, whether it was a good surprise or bad surprise. But once we opened the boxes, we were just so amazed. And then when we finally found this picture, we realized it was all the way from North Dakota.
After weeks and months of anticipation, students from Lewis and Clark Elementary from Mandan, North Dakota, and Roosevelt Elementary in Weslaco finally got to meet each other one morning during a Skype video conference. The excitement was evident. Both classrooms admitted they got little to no sleep the night before. Although it had to be through a screen, both schools had no problem bonding and enjoying each other's company. The meeting began with a greeting to one another. Once the two schools got acquainted, Mrs. Wallace and Roosevelt Elementary gave their appreciation and love for the generosity received from their new pals.
Good morning, boys and girls.
In attendance to share a few inspirational words was Weslaco ISD Superintendent Dr. Ruben Alejandro.
So when I found out about what you had done, I was very, very inspired. And I wanted to make sure that I came here myself and thanked you, each and every one of you. Something as simple as a little gift, okay? And you might say, well, that gift is not very expensive. It doesn't matter. The fact remains that somebody has thought about you and has extended this. Some of these kids that we have were hit hard during the flood. Our building was flooded, one of our buildings was flooded, but their homes were also flooded. So a lot of these kids, their families lost a lot of things. They lost furniture. A lot of them had severe damage to their homes. So all of these things happened. So for somebody clear across the country to say, you know what, I want to do something for you, it's really amazing.
We really wanted to thank you for all your support and wonderful gifts. Your kindness is appreciated. Thank you so much, students.
It makes me feel happy because they did all of that stuff just for us because the storm affected some of our houses and all the flooding stuff. Of their kindness, they give it to us.
You're gonna get a book and you can tell them thank you. And then that way they can see what book you picked.
These students all lost books from their classroom library. But now, thanks to Lewis and Clark Elementary, the boys and girls have a new class library with a new selection of books. Inside each book is a sticker which states where and who it came from as a reminder to each student of how and why it was sent.
We were surprised because we never thought someone would actually give something instead for them and would give it to us. I never thought that would actually happen.
Now there is an everlasting bond that is shared between the two schools.
I really love my Christmas gift and book that you all donated for my classroom library. Once again, I want to say thank you, Mrs. Mills. Your kindness will not be forgotten.
I wouldn't know anybody in the world who would do that. That's the first thing that I was thinking of. I'm just so appreciative that they did that.
It makes our hearts feel great. It puts smiles on our faces.
Those children from North Dakota learned about a flood, but then they learned much more than just what a flood does. And our children too, that outreach of kindness, will be with them forever in their lives.
I want to say to the students from Lewis and Clark Elementary School in Mandan, North Dakota, I want to say thank you. Thank you for what you've done, and thank you for laying down a foundation that's going to help make you the leaders of tomorrow, because those are the characteristics that they're exhibiting, leadership for the future. So I want to say thank you to them. I want to say thank you to their teachers and their administration, because for them to be allowed to do something like this is also very amazing.
But perhaps our new friends almost 1,700 miles away said it best.
When we look at that, here's your hearts and here's our hearts, and now we're connected together.
For KWES TV, I'm Gonzalez.